Hey, welcome back to What the Biz. 75% of small businesses are now using AI, and 82% of them are hiring more people because of it. So if that's not you, keep listening because we're going to tell you all about it today on What the Biz.
Welcome to What the Biz, where we talk about building successful businesses, balancing life, and all the WTB in between. With your hosts,
I'm Bridget Vector.
And I'm Dan Prochko.
Hello. This is What the Biz. I'm Dan here with Bridget again. And yeah, so today we are talking about what might be one of the most common misconceptions of AI. It's not just for marketing. We'll dive into that more today because, believe it or not, Congress had a hearing where we learned something. So we're going to share a little bit about that. But first, hey, how you doing, Bridget? What's up?
I'm doing good. We have been super busy. So I was mentioning before we hopped on that I think we both are in this bucket of like we are onboarding clients. I know you guys are too. And I had 2 interns start that came out of that coaching group that I was doing. And it has been kind of a whirlwind for this month and it's flying by. I can't believe we're already, halfway through the year, more than halfway. We're like into the middle of what, Q3 here almost? This is crazy. What is happening?
Yeah, we are more than halfway. Yes, Bridget. Yes. No, I mean, like you said, same boat. We got 2 major projects. A third is kicking off, and that third project is probably going to snowball into a fourth. And it's, I think, hiring time, which is exciting. I think that's where we're at. We're at like, we need some help. So we're going to do that. And wonderful to be back there again and doing that. But yeah, I can't tell Tuesday from Sunday right now. And it's fun though, but it's fun. There's actually we're using a lot of AI in a lot of things now to help with everywhere from, certain coding aspects and building out websites and elements for clients. And so I'm really excited about today's topic because I think there's a misconception around AI, actually. So let me ask you a question. Let's just jump in and let me ask. When you hear me say AI for small business, do you immediately picture like those weird fake-looking Facebook ads or like horribly formatted posts with like 900 emojis and maybe a couple M dashes?
I don't personally because of how much I have like dove into AI. But I will tell you, I have clients that do envision that and they are very much of like, I don't want that in my world. And I'm excited to talk about this today because I think there's some great ways that are absolutely overlooked in the AI world.
Yeah, I was, Congress held a hearing. It was the Small Business Committee of Congress, the House Small Business Committee, held a hearing on AI, and it was shared that over 75% of businesses are using AI, and of them, quite a few. What was the statistic that I said? I said of them, 82 were hiring more people because of it. So they're obviously seeing efficiency. But one of the coolest things out of that statistic is really that they're hiring. I thought the whole point of AI was that AI was going to take people's jobs. And here we are hearing about businesses are growing when they use AI, and not just growing in revenue, but in team members. Mm-hmm. What do you think is going on there?
So, I mean, I personally think there's a couple of things happening in this world, right? So that statistic is crazy because there has been, and there still is, there is fear around AI taking jobs. Yeah. There's also statistics around small businesses are not even able to hire. So like the jobs are there, but not the people to fill them. And I think what's happening is AI is getting utilized in a way that it's solving the immediate problem. Like, okay, I don't have anybody to do this. Can I make AI help make this a little easier because my time is limited? And I think they're finding ways that AI can take certain tasks, but then finding new ways that can create a position. And maybe it's because they've grown because AI did some of that, or maybe they found a different avenue that somebody would help them grow in their business. And that's just what I'm seeing personally between clients and then, just kind of what I'm seeing and reading about. What about you?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you say a lot that's really true. There is a lot of fear. And I think that fear really stems from a lot of the major tech giants over hiring or overestimating how much benefit they're going to get out of AI. And so they had a ton of massive layoffs. And because that's what hits the news. And so when we see those articles, we don't see a lot of the positive things around small businesses, because when a small business hires, okay, 2-3 employees here, another one's hiring 20, those things don't hit the news en masse the way a 5,000 person firing is going to. So I think that's what leads to the fear. And so it's recency bias and or it's just what's availability bias, because that's what we have. Is it misplaced? I don't know. I think not entirely. To kind of what we're talking about here is that I think there's all these businesses that are finding success through AI. If we don't learn how to use it, we are going to get left behind. And so that fear, I think, is real in that way. And I think it gets exacerbated with the other part you're talking about around hiring. You know, you were just sharing with me before that there was the Forbes article we were looking at. There was a survey by the National Federation of Independent Businesses where 62% of the members were had said that they were trying to hire, but 51% of them couldn't find a qualified applicant. And so you get to this point where it's like, I need help, but I can't find the help, and I don't know how to use AI. How is my business going to succeed? You know, and so I think some of those people, you know, they're the ones that are in jeopardy, you know, right now, where it's like they don't have the skills, they haven't tried it out, or maybe they have, you know, and they probably, you know, are like, hey, write me a blog post about X, or write me a social post, or make me an image, and we're like, this sucks. I don't like this. And then they just dropped AI and never tried anything else, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the cohort that is the most in jeopardy. So that's kind of what I see and think about that at the moment.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. Like I think the getting left behind is a truly real thing at this point. And not to say like if you haven't started using AI, you're already behind. Well, it is a factor. And I totally can see where businesses are getting to the point that if you aren't utilizing it, you're getting left behind more, because I view it more financially, obviously, because I live in that world, right? Where you could have higher value tasks assigned to humans, and some of those other tasks that don't need the human touch assigned to the AI world. And it just makes your business better and more profitable. And if you aren't doing that, you're going to continuously pay more for labor. And I think, this is just my opinion, but I think we're going to get to a point where employees that work for employers that do not use AI will leave for an employer that does use AI. I think that's a very real thing that will happen at some point.
Well, I could totally see that. I mean, because if I'm at an employer that is 100% against it, I can't work to my best efficiency. You know, I can't give them the best of my ability. You know, I'm going to be held back in some way. And at least that's the way I see it. You know, like when I do a job, I want to do it right. And so if I can't do it to the best of my ability, I want to find a place where I can have the biggest impact and see the best growth potential for my career. So that makes a total lot of sense. You know, I was thinking about that and kind of alluded to it of like, you know, what is it that makes owners or businesses, managers, et cetera, hesitant to jump in and use AI? And I think, you know, I was kind of joking around about that. They tried to generate that one image, you know, and they got something with 7 fingers, or they tried to write a social post and it just didn't sound like the business the way they wanted to. And I think what a lot of people miss out is that you can't look at AI as literally an employee. I know that's like the promise that everyone was told. You know, this is an employee. And it's like, no, it's more like the 16-year-old intern you have to teach everything to. And it's not going to be your marketing agency. It's not going to be your entire leadership team. That's not what AI is about. What AI really helps businesses with and or workers, like specifically in roles, is taking messy, disorganized ideas, numbers, and putting them into clean, usable structures. Or once they are structured, helping to parse through them quickly to find specific information that helps people get to things. So like, think of it like, if you're not using AI and you really want to grow quickly, you're a sports car on a muddy track, like you don't have that way through. But when you put AI as a piece into that puzzle, you move that car over onto an actual racetrack, where you can floor it and go 900 miles an hour because you're not stuck in that administrative mud, which is VLOOKUPs in a spreadsheet or going by eye and literally scanning through and finding what needs to be found, doing Control F finds and, all of this stuff. Like, you don't have to do that anymore. And so I think that's the piece that a lot of people are missing, because the big flashy things around AI were, oh, look at the videos it's generating. Look at these deep fakes it's making. Look at these graphics that I can do. And we see it all over social media everywhere. What we don't see is that back end stuff that's really saving the time and making people be efficient. And so I think that's the disconnect for a lot of people. While 75% are using AI, there's still a chunk that aren't even using it well, and then there were those, like I said, that tried and have dropped it. So I think that's really an important piece here. And so when I was, catching up on this hearing, which I know government's so exciting, but here we are talking about it because something actually exciting came out of it. Like I was hearing testimony around Main Street smaller businesses that were using it in very unique ways, like automating accounts payable. Okay. Like that's part automation, but there were some elements of AI that they were using in terms of flagging what was X number of days over that required certain different tasks or different scripting, etc. Turning voice memos into job estimates. I mean, how often are we on the job? We do something, then we have to build this bill, and then we have to send it to the client. But all we do is send an invoice with no context. Wonderful customer service. AI, if we just give a couple of sentences, it can give us something that makes a way better experience. I heard a story in the testimony around onboarding, new technicians and executives actually, or executive assistants, and where they used AI to create the entire onboarding process. And I'll actually share a little example around that because we do something a little later in our conversation today, because we do something along that path. So instead of having like a 72 hours of in-depth onboarding in the office of here's how you do your task, no, here's just quick little course done.
Yeah,
we're in. And so like hearing these stories were huge, because it's like these are the back end things that I think many need the inspiration to go and start exploring. And so while giving AI creative jobs is fun, it's all subjective and fleeting everywhere. But when we can remove those repetitive tasks and give AI or have AI help us create better processes and things that are more efficient, really propel us so much further.
I think about it like getting away of just that administrative, like the unnecessary administrative side of things, right? Like that just kind of bog things down. I have a couple of unique examples that have kind of like come up. One is with interviewing. Like, I feel like if we aren't using like video technology, which then transcribes, because when you're interviewing somebody for your company or just in general, this could even be like customer interaction. I'll give an example of that. And I think your cleaning companies could use this hugely themselves, right? But like you miss in conversation, especially interviews, there are things you won't pick up on because you're in the moment, like going through it. If you can put that back through AI and have it kind of like analyze the answers, how does this fit our culture? Like, what are some red flags? What are the great things? You've just saved yourself either a really bad hire or missing out on a great hire because maybe you overlooked something. And you can have AI go through it. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, another way is like, whether it's red flags or bad hire, good hire, at least it gives you direction of understanding, oh, how do we make the most out of this hire? Like we understand, oh, there's this potential flag. Let's do things to better understand that or get over that, or at least identify it quickly so that we don't waste a ton of time together.
Yeah, or if you haven't
I agree
hired
with you 100%. Yeah.
it can give you follow-up questions. Nobody
Yes.
said that you
Yeah.
can't have a follow-up conversation with somebody, right?
Yeah.
So it just gives you
Right.
those next things. I have a few clients. So I have plumbing companies, I have electricians, I have a company that does like projects for houses, I guess. Not necessarily full renovations, but they go in and do like handyman services.
Handyman type stuff, services.
Yeah.
Yeah. Smaller projects. Yeah.
All of those are amazing examples. Your cleaning companies could be the same thing. You can either tell the customer, like, hey, while I'm walking through your home, I'm going to turn on like my phone recorder so that I can talk through and it can hear everything that you are mentioning that either you want cleaned or for the renovations or if it's a plumbing project. Or if you don't do that during that, we all get in a car. If you're going to the actual site, voice memo that as you're driving away and have it turn it into either a follow-up email, an estimate, a game plan. I mean, you can feed AI how you do your pricing. This is a great way. And it can like take everything that you said in that voice recording and essentially build your estimate. And it could be doing it while you're on the road driving home. Because how many times would you be in a meeting and forget about half of the things, you know, or you have rough notes and it's just messy scribbled things all over the place? That has saved so much administrative time for clients that like it's mind blowing actually.
No, 100%. We 100% do that. And then we do all of the above of everything you shared. So anytime we've got a new client, it's a video call. If it's a phone call, we say, hey, are you all right with us recording it? We feed it in for transcript. We take that transcript and we allow AI to turn that into, here's a summary of the needs. Here's a project, outline of what that would be, et cetera. And then we go in and obviously we don't send to the client right away. Like this is the thing I think a lot of people are thinking is like, wait, you mean you let AI do it? Then what? The client see? It's like, no, you go in and you edit things. Like you make sure it's accurate.
You teach it your
always
voice.
Has to be that. Yeah, exactly. Remember I said it's a 16-year-old intern? That's how you got to treat it. So you're checking all of it. But like it saves hours. You know how many hours it takes to type all this stuff up?
Yes.
It's insane. Like I think the piece, in terms of getting the most out of it, what I'm hearing here is like there's a context gap. AI doesn't know things about your business, but it can really help you better understand your business if it knows about it. And so it's like, the thing is like, we're always asking AI to do stuff for us, but instead of just saying generically like, hey, write me a customer email. Great. Yeah. It doesn't know anything what to do with that. But to your point of like, you just got out of a meeting. It's like, hey, I just got out of a client meeting with these handyman projects, 1, 2, 3, et cetera. Can you write me a business proposal for this to send back to the client, and then done. It knows what it's going to do. It writes it up for you and it saves you 45 minutes, maybe even 2 days. How many times do we have those meetings and we haven't sent a proposal for say 48, 72 hours just because of the tedious nature of getting that together? Yeah. But here we're saying, oh, we can have it done within seconds, honestly, minutes, seconds. Like it's insane. So
I know we've talked a lot about like closing, like the sales cycle, like, and in your world, right? Marketing, you can bring them all the leads, but if their sales process stinks, you can't make them close the deal. This arena is an amazing opportunity for that. Like if you came out of a conversation with a customer, and let's say you do have to spend time putting a proposal together, or maybe they're deciding or whatever it is. If you give AI the context and you say like, here were their top 3 either reasons or pain points we're going to solve or whatever, write a follow-up email. I have people that I know that are doing this and they say like, put the draft in my email because then you can still go review it, put your own words to it. But there are stats, and I probably should have pulled them, but I will find them and share. But like, there are stats around if you get a follow-up, like addressing where you like say their pain points back to them again within like an hour or 2 hours of that conversation and give like a brief outline about how you are the solution that they need to make that pain go away. even if your proposal isn't there, you just gave them another reason instantly where they're going to say, when that proposal comes in, I want this pain gone, because you've spoken their pain back to them. And you use AI to just do the writing of that. Like it is mind-blowing of the gap that is missed for some businesses that aren't implementing this in those like very strategic. That's how I think of it as strategy. You're using AI to be strategic in your business.
Yeah. So actually did some quick research to the statistical point here is like, so those sales reps that follow up within the first hour makes you significantly more likely to qualify a prospect, achieving 700% higher close rates.
I knew it was
So
huge, and I knew it was an hour.
That's insane. 700 times higher close rates. Okay, and then you know, just because we follow up through email doesn't mean it's read or seen. But so if you use subject lines or email bodies that explicitly are customized around a prospect's, you know, problems or pain points, you're going to get a 28% higher open rate. I couldn't find close rates on that piece, but I'm sure by being personalized and saying it, you know, showing that you were listening, et cetera, and know what you're going to accomplish is going to increase your close rate even more. But I mean, 7 higher % close rates just by following up within the hour. But I mean, adding on top of that, customizing that subject line to show you had been talking with them, and then having content that's really specific to them is going to get you 28% higher open rate, which is just going to, you know, jack your closing rate up even more. So, I mean, it's huge. It's huge. So, yeah. And AI can help with all that is what we're getting at. It makes this easier to be personalized. You know, like that was the holy grail in marketing for the longest time. I remember when we started using MailChimp, say 20 years ago, it's just like, oh, you can put someone's first name in there. You can do this. Like, no, now it's on overdrive. Now it's not just first name and we know where you live. It's, oh no, here's what we just talked about. You know, here are quotes specifically from the meeting. Here is a whole personalized, you know, timeline for how we're going to accomplish all of this together. And it's within seconds. Like that just... Like if I had 2 businesses and we had great sales meetings, but someone got back to me within 5 minutes with a full-on plan and everything, I mean, that authority goes up like crazy. Yes. You know, because they are so put together that they are able to give me this that quickly, you know, all other things being equal. I mean, that's insane. It's insane.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you already have like your customer profile started then, right? Like we all want to keep notes on our customers. And for anybody listening that's like the naysayer here, where you're like, you're cheating, right? This is cheating because you wouldn't have remembered those things, or you wouldn't have done those things. I think of two things here. Like we are here to serve our customers. That's why we're in business, right?
Yes.
And secondary, if we can do it better and we can use technology to help us remember things that we want to remember or like have for our customers, that's not cheating. That's actually up leveling our customer service experience, because we are humans that can't keep everything in our brains. And the other aspect of this, for those that are like, well, this is going to take jobs. No, like you just made it where either you yourself, so if you're handling the sales calls, or you have an office manager or a salesperson doing that, they can take on more customer calls because they're not stuck writing notes, typing emails, doing all the proposal writing. They can do more, which means you're going to have more customers, which means you need more employees to serve those customers. And it's all just a big economic positive if it's being used in the right way. And I just think that's the big misconception, right? That jobs are going away, and we just proved how it actually is going to produce more jobs, which was kind of bringing this full circle to what you started with. Like, there are going to be jobs produced.
I'm now thinking, like, if I was a sales rep that's commission based, oh my God, I'm adopting this so fast and so hard. Because if I can hold more conversations at once, you know, like have more things going at once, if I can make sure I can track everything at once, I'm going to close more, which means I'm going to get way more commission. Okay. Like done. So if you're an owner right now and you got a sales team and they're on commission, it's in your interest to get them to go on this route. They are going to make more commission because they're going to sell more. You are then going to get more business and thus be more profitable. Yes, you're going to hire more people to execute and implement your service or product or whatever it is because your salespeople are way more productive.
Yes.
Like just hands down, I'm just connecting those dots right now. Oh my God, if I was a sales rep, it's insane. Like, yeah, I'm all over this.
Well,
So,
and think
no,
about that
yeah.
from your competitor standpoint.
Yeah.
If you aren't and they are, they
Are?
can outserve you. They will outserve you in the market
Yes.
because they can serve more customers because they are using AI in a positive way
Mhm.
to enhance their abilities to do so.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people say this is really expensive. And look, yes, there are platforms out there that are, but no, it doesn't have to be. Like you're talking $20 per month, like per seat, like $20. Like that's not expensive per person, especially for the outcome you're going to get. So like just hands down done. That's just totally bashed, totally busted, etc. Not expensive. Okay. And so the only other piece is thinking like, oh, I need an IT professional to really help me how to do this. It's like, no, you just need to give it context. Okay.
Yeah.
You need to understand, like I said before, that AI is a 16-year-old summer intern. Okay. And so if you're cool with this, Bridget, I've got a couple of examples of how I might use this in the real world one, that we have here. Okay.
Roll
So
with it.
one thing I've got is like, say you're HVAC, and you've got you do big projects. Okay. So we're talking thousands of parts go into a proposal, itemized, etc. And typically the way those would get built is, yes, you might be in a program, but you're going item by item, selecting them, etc. Well, if you know what those parts are, you have that list from the project that was, from the meeting with AI, you feed it into AI with your parts catalog. Okay. And AI can search through it. How would we build that? Well, 2 free tools. Okay. Or at least if you're in the Google ecosystem, you can use Notebook LM. You can upload your entire parts catalog into Notebook LM. It will then be able to read through all of that. You can connect that to Google Gemini and say, hey, I need a quote for this kind of project. And if your documentation is up there for those kinds of projects of what parts and everything, it will just build it for you. It will literally search through millions of parts, find part numbers for you. It'll put quantities, based on, what you need, and then it'll calculate costs for you entirely through and just build your entire estimate off the bat. Something that would have taken you 45 to 90 minutes is boiled down to 15 seconds. Okay. I mean, like just like that's insane. Like, yes, you got to double check it, but you'd have to double check it anyway. If you spent 45 to 90 minutes building it, you would have to wait till tomorrow to double check it. Here, you've built it within 15 seconds and you're checking it right away. Like that has saved so much time to get something out faster and thus revenue in sooner. And this is all from just 2 pieces: uploading a parts catalog and like your project, your project list sheet of like what goes into a project, and then just prompting Gemini to help you, create an estimate for a certain project. Like that's so simple. You don't have to like super format or anything. Just upload. It'll help. It'll do it. It's crazy.
Well, and even talking to Gemini. So if you tell it what you're trying to accomplish and prompt it to ask you questions so that it can learn you and your proposal process, you're building the brain behind it by giving it your brain, right?
Yeah.
I think of this, like that example, I think of that of when they added like the keyword search on Adobe. So like you can search a whole PDF for a word.
PDF,
or
right,
like the find piece in like Excel, or the find and replace in Word, like when you used to have to like
Control F, Control H.
Yeah, like
all of
this
that.
is the same kind of philosophy, right? Like you're giving it the context, and you're basically telling it to go search for all those things and build the end result.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just using the resources to make our life a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah. Another example, and talked about it before, because in the hearing, somebody talked about onboarding and of new team members. And we actually did this. We took all of our knowledge base articles, like internal processes, how we do things, everything internally, and we uploaded all of those into Notebook LM. We're a Google shop, so I'm talking about Google. Maybe you put this into a project in Claude or something. I forget what they're called, but you can put files into folders, etc. It's the same concept. And then we connected that to Google Gemini, okay? And we asked it to create an onboarding calendar for a new team member. And what would we have to teach them? What do they have to know along the way? It created a whole timeline and course for us, basically the whole thing. We took that and we went back to Notebook LM because Notebook LM has some really cool features. You can create training materials based on the information within. So you can create things like slide decks, podcast audio. You can create quizzes, video overviews. It'll just generate. You just give it that prompt of like, so we took that timeline. It's like, oh, step one was they have to know this information or this concept. You go to Notebook LM and say, hey, Notebook LM, can you create, a short course with slides and a video that explain this concept for this role? And it just does it. And then bam, we take that, we just put it into a folder for the person. And bam, course one done. And so, what that does is that goes from a person having to write scripts, get on a camera, edit everything, then take that video, edit that video, put it somewhere for this person to see, etc. And then, down the line when things have to be changed, we have to go back and re-edit it and all of this stuff. No, here it's AI just generating it and it's ready to go immediately. The cool piece from this is not only are we hiring people in faster and bringing them up to speed faster, which means we have more capacity and thus can take on more clients, but because we have this notebook, our team members have access to prompt it whenever they need. So if they forget something about how we work, now they don't have to do that Control F or find it in the files or wherever else. Where is that process, Doc? Oh, it doesn't matter. I go to this notebook and I just ask, hey, how do I do this again? What is the process for my business for getting this done? They just prompt and get it done. I'm no longer getting emails or chats or phone calls in the middle of the night about things. It's just, nope, you just go search it. And they are empowered to do their jobs.
And it makes their onboarding experience that much better. And most employees want to be empowered to know where to find their own answers. They don't want to have to continue to ask if they have a resource at their fingertips. So when you onboard employees in a great way, they're more likely to stay with your company, which is ultimately what we all want, right? Like that is our goal. So make it as easy as possible. I could see that being a great resource for even onboarding customers or building an FAQ resource that could eventually be searched by customers once you filter it out. But
and I've totally seen it. And that's where a lot of like customer like chat bots are coming from on like customer service. And, I think, there's a lot of backlash to that too, though, because there's a lot of use or experiences that are one-offs that aren't answerable by the bot. And it's just this extra step to get to where we got to go. So there is something to think about around customer service. And we've talked about that. But for 80% of, support tickets, that come in or questions from clients, a bot can usually answer those, and if they can't, a bot can then schedule a time on your calendar in a time slot that's available for you and the client, and so, and then it can realize if something is super emergency and then ping you right away, like all of these things can be programmed in to help make you more efficient. So, I was so inspired by this hearing, actually, by the news coming out and this information that I really hope more business owners and small businesses get into improving their internal processes and taking those repetitive tasks away. So, yeah.
I mean, I would just encourage our listeners that if one idea popped into your head and you're like, I just don't know how it would work, just start talking. You can get the free
That's great. Yeah.
Just start talking. Just take that one thing that you just heard during that where you're like, ooh, would that work for this in my business? And just say that to AI and ask it to help you to start mapping it out. Because I don't always know what I'm trying to accomplish. So I just kind of like pour the mismatch of thoughts out and somehow I end up with some phenomenal things at the end of it.
You know what? I think that's a perfect action step is like take a moment right now and write down like 5 things that you do all the time. What are the 5 most repetitive things you do as part of your role? And then pick like the number one thing that you hate the most. Like what's the thing you hate, you like doing the least, okay? And ask AI, how can you help me accomplish this faster? What's the best way for us to go about accomplishing XYZ? And it'll give you a whole ton of, it'll give you an answer. And then you say, okay, what information do you need from me? What format do I need to give it to you in? How, and then down the line, you'll probably have that question of how do we automate this? It will even help you understand how to automate it. So I think that's the action step from today is write the 5 things you do most often, pick the one thing you like doing least, and ask AI how to solve it.
Love it.
I think that's
Love
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's next for you then? What are you working on next? What's coming up?
Well, we're gonna get all these clients onboarded. That's kind of like our main focus right now. And then we are wrapping up kind of our mid-year reviews and really getting a pulse on our clients' feelings. Like, have they worked too much this first part of the year, and are they keeping enough dollars in their business to make that
Ooh,
work
nice.
worth it? So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Now we finalized one of the web projects that kind of alluded to earlier. So we had a launch, which is awesome. So we're just going to take a look back at some of that initial early data. Otherwise, gearing up for a really fun improv show. No, I'm not performing, but there's a group out of Chicago coming into town that does an improvised Columbo. So if you know, like from the 70s, the Columbo series where he was that detective in LA, it was Peter Falk. I love Columbo. I don't know why. It's like this comfort show for me. He's so idiosyncratic and weird, but they found a way to improvise an entire Columbo murder mystery. And so we're going to go see that. They're coming in from Chicago into Kalamazoo. So I'm really excited for that because there's something about that character that totally intrigues me. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody, to another episode of What the Biz. We know you're busy, so thank you for spending your time here with us today. If you found something super valuable, and it's a review, whether that be Spotify or Apple, iTunes, podcasts, wherever it is you're listening, helps others find us. And if there's a topic you want us to cover, or maybe you heard an interesting stat and you think it might make a cool episode, get to whatthebiz.com and let us know all about that. But until then, stay proactive, and we'll see you on the next one.